Rodney? Hold on, let me fix this. It was because, did you notice I tried to move the camera? And of course, that's illegal now. It's no longer allowed from OBS. Now, okay, it used to be that I just wasn't allowed to resize the cameras. Now I'm not even allowed to change their hierarchy in the list or they die. So that's so cool and great. Stupid ass fuck, dude. Anyways. Alright, I'll tell you my improv thing story. Audio is out of sync. I don't know whose fault that is. And I don't know how to fix it. Do a refresh. Fine, go. Something on the very bottom of the cat tree. Alright. I'm gonna have to figure out why that's fucking up, but that can wait. Alright, so I think it was like a couple weeks ago, Bryony posted about an improv class taster thing. And she was like, does anybody else want to go to this or is interested? And I think it was like $10 or something. So I was like, okay, sure. Because I'm sure Bryony probably would go alone. But it's nice if someone goes with you. And also I thought it would be something fun to do. And wait, don't be looking at me, Gilgamesh. No slow pin. And so I was like, yeah, okay, I want to do that too. So I signed up for it and I got the tickets to my email or whatever. And it's not too far out of the city center. And Bronchi's fun, that's true. So, I was going there and I Ubered because it was a bit farther and it was hot out and I didn't feel like walking. And so I got there like a couple minutes late because it started at 2 and I got there at like 2:02. And then I was like, there's no signs or anything or any people in the first area. So I went downstairs and there was like people down there and there was a piano and a stage and a bunch of chairs. And so I was like, okay, this kind of looks like it. And there's like people down there. So I stood in there for a couple of minutes and I was texting Bryony because she told me she was there. And I was like, I think I'm in the right room because there's people here, but I don't know. She didn't say anything. And then there was like other people in the room and I had said hi to them when I came in and I looked around. And then when one guy was about to leave the room, I was like, is this the improv thing? And he was like, I think it was like a performance thing or something. And so he was like, oh, the blank. And I was like, no, the taster thing. And I showed him my like ticket thing. And he's like, oh, that's probably upstairs. So then I had to walk out of that room, go upstairs. And then there was a locked door. So I was like, because it had a code on it. So I was like, and then someone else that was there came out of the kitchen and I just was like, how do I get in? And they were like, oh, and it was just open. So I was like, ah. And so then I went into the room and everyone was sat in a circle and Bryony was there and there was an empty chair next to her and then there was the instructor and stuff. And there's probably like, including me and Bryony, maybe like 10 to 12 people there or something. I know, the real improv is turning up to the wrong meeting and pretending like you belonged there. I know, that could have very well happened. That could have very well been what happened. But I got to the right room, and so I sat down, I said hi to Bryony and everything. And then, yeah, there was like 10 to 12 other people there, and the instructor person was probably around our age. a lady, and then there was only me, Bryony, and then 2 other women, and the rest were guys, and everyone seemed really nice. And 2 people were married, and then there was like me and Bryony were friends, and there was another duo of guys that were friends, and then another duo of guys that were friends. And so I was like expecting for the improv thing, and I'm gonna just bare my soul to you right now, as cringe as it might be, because I was like, okay, like I do improv stuff pretty often with yogs, but the thing is it would be nice to get better at it, and it would also be nice to not be nervous about meeting new people. And so that's what I was looking for. Box, thanks for the 45 months. And in my brain, I was like, oh, like, I'll go to this improv thing, and I'll be given a character and a setting and like someone else that will be, you know, doing the scene with me or something, and it will be fun. And I was like, in my brain, because I like to think I like to make myself laugh, even if it's just in my brain. And so in my brain, I was thinking about doing the improv thing, and then like they tell me what to do, and then I do it, and then everyone is like, wow, you're so good at improv. And I'd be like, thanks. And then I'd be smiley happy. I'd say, wow, thank you. And then everyone would be like, yippee, you're so cool. And I'd say, yay. And then there would be a parade, but there wasn't. But I could have added a parade if I wanted to in my brain, because it would have been funny. And like in my brain, I was like, ha ha ha, it would be so funny. Like, it, not even that I think this is what's going to happen, but just like it was like a nice little treat of my imagination. Because then I also was like laughing because I imagined, you know, that Obama meme where he's like, or that meme where they're putting a medal around someone else. And in my brain, I was like, ha ha ha, this is funny to imagine, is that I'm getting a medal for how good I am at improv, because it would be funny. And not even because I think that's what's going to happen, but I was like, yay, I think I do okay at this stuff. So we're sat in that circle, and the improv teacher leader person is like at, let's say they're at 12 o'clock, and me and Bryony are at like 4 and 5 o'clock or something like that. And then so she's like, okay, to start off, what we're gonna do is introduce ourselves with our name and our, or no, she was at, if we're still keeping the 12 o'clock thing, she would be at like 8, and we were at like 4 and 5 or something, right? And so she's like, okay, we're gonna start by introducing ourselves and saying our pronouns if you want to, or if you have any, and then saying if we have any accommodations that we need. Like, she's like, for example, I could say I have a headache, and so I might be quiet sometimes, or I might close my eyes because my head hurts or something like that. And then she was like, and then also say why you were interested in doing the class. And then I think there was another thing, but I don't remember. And so she said hers first, and then it went around, and there was like, it was no one was saying anything about accommodations really. And I was like, ooh, like I kind of want to say one, just because of it would be nice for an accommodation, and I'm trying to be better about doing it autism wise. And so I went around the room, and then before it was me, I was like so nervous, and I was like, bro, all I have to do is say my name and like those other things that are normal as fuck to just say, and it's not a big deal. This is not even the scary part. I got so nervous. And then when it was the guy next to me's turn, I was like, oh my god, when should I start my thing? Like, do I say it like Is he gonna look at me? Should I wait till he looks at me to like indicate that it's my turn? Or do I just like wait a moment and then say it? What if I interrupt him and he's not done yet? Blah, 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 blah. So I was like, yippee, great. This is already off to a wonderful raring start. So he finished speaking and I was like, okay, I don't think he's gonna look at me, so I'm just gonna start. So I said, hi. I introduced myself with my name, which is not Boba. And I was like, I don't really like that name, but I'm going to say it anyways. And then, so I was like, this is my name. I use she, her, whatever, or they, or whatever. I don't really care. And then, see, and I wasn't even like spiraling or anything. I just was like, I just want to do it the right way. I want to do the social thing the right way. Because I didn't feel anxious about doing it incorrectly. I just wanted to do it correctly, if that makes sense. My name is Emily, but I don't like it. And so I was like, hi, I'm Emily. She, they, whatever, I don't really care. And then I said, I was like, as for accommodations, I'm autistic, so sometimes I don't understand tone so well, or when people are joking, so I might ask for like clarification on tone. Not during the improv thing that we're doing, but just in general. Because I didn't want it to come across that if we're doing a fucking improv, and I'm like, oh, did you mean that this way? Because that would not be how you would do it. And so, yeah, I was like, I might just ask for clarification. Because I do that sometimes because, I struggle with, understanding sometimes if I've, like, I think I just always worry if I've upset anyone. And so then I just want to clarify, you know. It's a good name. It's spelled differently. I hate how it's spelled, and I just don't really feel like an Emily. So I think it's a nice name. It's just not for me. But then I said, I was like, oh, I wanted to do the improv stuff because me and my friend, we do kind of like improv stuff and like tabletop games and things. But it would be nice to get better at it and to like learn like and be better at improving with different people. And then Bryony went blah 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 blah. And so then I think my expectation of going to an improv taster class was I was like, okay, improv is about we're gonna do scenes. And I feel like when I can play a character, I feel almost less anxious interacting at times because I'm like not thinking about me. I'm like, oh, this is what the character would do. And then I can like use a voice or whatever. That's masking. Okay, well, you got me there. But I was like, okay, I will go, and I like doing improv stuff. Like I like and even when I'm not playing a character, like when we did improv for like the costume contest and all of those things, you know, because that's improv shit too. I'm like, oh, I still have a good time, and like, cool, we're gonna do scenes and things like that. And I was expecting like, you know, in improv classes in like TV and stuff where people you like watch like a group of people are in a scene together and then everybody else watches and then you take turns, or like Whose Line and those things. Yeah, so that's what I was expecting. So the first like 30 to 40 minutes or longer of what we did, I was like not vibing with. So the first thing that we started off doing was we all stood up in a circle, moved the chairs away or whatever, and then we did like the sorts of like exercise things where you're like shaking out your nerves or whatever. So we're having to put our arms up and then lower them and like shake our arms out and blah blah blah. That's fine, whatever. But then after that, our next assignment was that she was like, okay, I want you all to move around the room, move around the space, and just move around. And like, not conversation or anything like that. I just want you to move around the room and move around the space and get used to the space. And don't just walk in a circle, like walk sort of randomly. So I was like, okay. So it's kind of like being a fucking NPC in like that Perfect Heist game or like, you know, any of those fucking games. So I was like, okay. She's like, don't just everybody walk in a circle like you're at a skating rink, like change directions and things like that. And I was like, okay. I didn't say that out loud, the NPC thing. I just was like, okay. So we're like all and she was like, move around, and she's like, and don't worry about making eye contact, maybe almost avoid making eye contact. And I said out loud, I was like, yes, my specialty. Aha, we chuckled about that. So then we had to just walk around randomly. And I was like, okay. And then that was awkward because it was like British people who are trying not to bump into each other in the very typical way of like, ooh, 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 at times. So we're just like rotating like random atoms around in this room. And I was like, okay. And then she was like, okay, you can stop now. And I was like, okay. And then she was like, now I want you to do the same thing, but I want you to deliberately make eye contact with people. And I was like, please, why? Why? And so we had to move around the room randomly, and then if we like got close enough to someone, we had to look at them, and then they should look back at us, and then we should be looking at each other, making eye contact. So we did that for like another minute or something. And then she was like, okay, I want you to do all of those previous things, and then I also want you to look around the space, look up at the ceiling, look at anything that catches your eye. If you want to stop somewhere for a moment and look at something or check it out, do that. And so then we did that. And then she was like, okay, now do all of those previous things, except if you... Meanwhile, a lot of these things, this whole thing is meant to make us like loosen up and get more used to each other, but it made me feel worse. It made me feel more awkward and more anxious because I have this problem that I'm trying to get over, which is part of like the masking autism thing, which is like worrying constantly about feeling embarrassed or doing embarrassing things by not doing social norm things or by doing something that is quote unquote weird. So I'm trying to get over that and trying to not be embarrassed about anything, because the only person that can be embarrassed is you. So like I'm the only one that's going to feel embarrassed about what I'm doing. And if someone else looks at me and is like, why is that person doing that weird thing? I don't have to be embarrassed by that. But since I've been doing over 30 years of trying to fit in and be normal so I'm not weird, then I am like, okay, I need to stop doing that and be not embarrassed by stuff. I'm embarrassed for you right now. See, that's how I was feeling though, Drathus, because this part of it, I was like, this is so weird, wacky shit that I am like struggling because it's not like, it's not normal movement, it's not normal interacting, and it's freaking me out. Thanks, Connor, for the 32 months. Every time you talk about this stuff, I relate so hard, but hearing someone else share these things is so nice. It feels like, yeah, I'm trying to be better about it, which is part of why I wanted to go to the improv, because I was like, okay, like, I don't know any of these people. We're all doing goofy, wacky shit, so therefore we should not be embarrassed. But these exercises we were doing, I was like, I fucking hate this. And I am... This is... This is putting me... It's not even... It was like not even a comfort zone thing, but I was like, this just is not, first of all, it wasn't what I was expecting. Also, it was like just awkward shit, like forcing you to feel awkward. Which is okay, but I think I would have liked to know that. So then it gets worse. So then not only are we moving around in weird directions and basically trying to move unpredictably, not in a circle, we are also supposed to look at things, stop, check things out, deliberately make eye contact with people. Then it was like, she said, okay, now do all of those previous things, but if you lock eyes with somebody, or if you get near someone, you both have to jump and high five each other at the same time with both hands and say, yeah! And I was like, I'm going to fucking die, bro. I'm going to die. So, the awkward thing about that is I'm also so much smaller than everyone that I was having to jump, and the people who were high-fiving me would like try to do a tiny jump, and then we would miss because of the height differences. And so there's like a couple high fives I had to redo. And it was very much like everyone else was feeling awkward, because British people, I think, feel awkward a lot of times in general. And it was forcing awkward stuff on purpose to like be like, it's okay, like we're just getting the awkwardness. It's like, it was like a big icebreaker thing, right? And so but I was like, this is not my idea of getting more comfortable with these people. This is actually making me feel more like, I started to like get really like tensed up, and like I was like, I don't want to be doing this right now, because it feels silly and it feels stupid and it feels embarrassing. And also, I wanted to go to this class and play a silly, funny character and not be like forced to make eye contact with people and then be like doing these silly things. Bryony was like, yeah, all of that was kind of weird and felt awkward and silly, but I guess it was supposed to be like that. And I was like, okay, like, I want to embrace the experience and try it and doing it, you know? And, yeah. And so, it was just like, I felt more awkward. And then I think there was like another thing we had to do after the high-fiving thing, but I think I blocked it out. The other bad thing about this was, from the very start, it's a very sunny day out today. And they had windows that were like probably hip level all the way to the high ceiling. So it was so bright out. The room itself, all of the walls were white. And then outside it was super bright, and there were two big lights above us, and both the big lights were on. And I already sort of had a migraine, like a little tiny bit, from being nervous. And so it was like the big lights were on, and there were no curtains on the window. So it was also so fucking bright in that room that, like, when it gets to be that bright in a room or in a place, I almost feel like I'm disassociating, because it's like too much to take into my eyes. So then I almost am like, I feel like out of body or like disassociated from those things. So I was like, okay, I'm doing it. Hello, Caspi. Because at one point, after a while, there was like, you had to partner up with people, which I'll talk about that. And I was being silly goofy, but I was talking to one of the guys. There's like one of the other duos there also did tabletop gaming, and they were buddies, and they were really nice. And so at one point I was partnered up with the younger one of them, and he was like talking to me, and he was like, oh, how's it going or whatever. And I was like, it's really funny because it's so fucking bright I didn't say, I was like, it's so bright in here and all the lights are on. And I don't usually have lights on like this. So, haha, it's like I feel like I'm disassociating sometimes. And he's like, oh, are you okay? And I was like, I'm totally fine. It's just very bright in here. And then I felt bad because I was like, oh, this person was like, is this person freaking out? And I was like, well, I mean, yes, but also I'm just going to deal with it. But then, so we did that thing with the high-fiving, the moving around the room and all of that stuff. Get ready. Get ready for the next one, y'all. So after we did that, then she was like, okay, let's get back into a big circle again. So we all got into a big circle. Standing up. So she's like, we're gonna play a game called Zip, Zap, Boing. And I was like, okay, I already hate this. I already can tell. I'm party pooping. I'm party pooping. I'm party pooping. I already hate this. She was like, okay, we're gonna play Zip, Zap, Boing. And the way that this works is she's like, we're gonna start with Zip. And we were like, okay. She's like, the way that Zip works is you turn to the person next to you, and it's a theater game, yeah, and you say Zip, and then that person has to turn to their next person and say Zip, and you go all around the room going Zip to the next person as fast as you can. So we all zipped, and she was like, great, great, now let's add in Zap. And I was like, okay, let's add it in, which it was a really nice time, and everyone was really, really nice, and I enjoyed being around everybody, but this was, like, too much for me as, like, an introvert person, where I was like, I'm, in hell. So, Zap was, she's like, okay, for Zap, you zap someone, and they are not next to you, they're across from you or something. So you can either zip someone or zap someone. So people were zipping the person next to them, and then they were zapping the person across from them. And then one of the people who was also a very big introvert, he got zapped, and he like hesitated, and he was like, zip, and then he zipped. And so she's like, oh, this is a good way for me to introduce the next thing. And she was like, if anyone hesitates, if you hesitate, you need to go, yay! And then all of us go, yay, with you. So that it's, because it's not a big deal if you hesitate. So we all say yay. So then, if anyone hesitated, they had to say yay, and we all had to say yay. If you hesitate, you are killed. Yes, socially. So we all yayed when we did it. As a punishment. Yeah, bring more attention. And so then we were all yaying when people hesitated. And then I thought I was going to get called out at some point because I wasn't meaning to, but Bryony was next to me. And I feel like I just kept zipping her out of like comfort because I was like, I know this person. And she had stopped at one point, and I was like, oh my god, she's going to say, stop doing a zip only with the person you know. And I was like, but she didn't. So then she was like, all right, we've got zip and zap and we've got yay. Let's add boing. And I was like, oh no, I'm already not excited for this one, dude. Bronchi posted this and we could all go to it. And I was like, yeah, I want to do improv. I didn't know it was going to be... It was basically like the first hour was like icebreakers and warming up. And I was like, oh my god, like I just want to be silly, like playing a character. And all of this made me more, like, anxious. An hour. It was, like, maybe, like, the first, like, 40 minutes was, the walking around the room and then this game that I'm explaining. And then there was, like, a bit after, so I'll tell you about that in a minute. I think, yeah. And so then, after zip and zap and yay was boing. So, boing was if someone zips you, you can go boing, and that means that they have to reverse and zip the other person next to them, but you can't boing a zap. So if someone zaps you, you have to still do it. You can't deflect it. So there was like there's like a group that it was funny because they would all zap each other, but then boing, so it would just bounce between them a few times, and then it would like move to the next person. But so you would have to like, if someone zipped you, you could like Uno reverse it back to them by saying boing. We did that. So it was zip and zap and boing. And then the next one was kachuk, or it was like kachuk or something like that, or zing. I think it was zing. So zing was if someone zaps you, you can go zing, and you have to put up a shield to block their zap, and then they have to zap somebody else. And then, of course, this whole time, if you forget a rule or you hesitate, then we all have to say yay. And I think that was the point, was like the more rules, like the more you're having to think on your toes. So then it was, if someone zaps you, you can deflect it now too. So then we did that. And then she goes, the next one is schlack. And then schlack meant, she was like, you say schlack and you throw it into the middle. And then when it's in the middle, it being an action, she goes, someone has to say, it's mine, and then they're the ones that get to do the next action. But if more than one person says, it's mine at the same time, then they have to spin around on the spot, and then someone else has to try to say, it's mine, without doing it at the same time as another person. And so that happened a lot. And I never once tried to say, it's mine, because I was like, I am not going to do that. And then after that, I think there was like another one. After that was like one more. Oh my god. Oh. She said the next one is I think she called it like romance or something like that. You can have it, yeah. The next one was like romance, I think. And I was like, what the fuck? So the next one was, and she had there's like this guy who was really tall, and he's probably a little bit older than me. And he was like so good at it, right? Because he just was like, he was not worried about being silly or anything, which was really nice, because he kind of, you know, you could look at him and be like, okay, like, I want to be silly too. So romance meant that one person starts the action, and then the other person is Hugh Grant, and it starts by the person goes like this, and you both have to do it at the same time to each other in front of each other's face, and you say it's like it's raining. So you say, you do this, and you have to do it at the same time, and then you have to turn, and those two people have to do it at the same time. Those two people do it at the same time, and it has to go all the way around. And then when it gets to Hugh Grant, he has to say, that fucking line from the movie that was like, oh, I didn't even realize it was raining, or something like that, from like the romance film. And this was on top of zip, zap, boing, schlack, all of those things. I feel like it's quite roundabout way of getting you all comfortable with performance and letting mistakes happen, because it's improv, yes, and yeah. So then we were doing the zip, zap, boing, schlack, whatever the fuck, and it was all going around, and then it got to me, and I was like, no one's done this Hugh Grant shit yet, so I was like, I guess I'll do it. So I did the rain to the person to my right, and it went all the way around, and then it got to Bryony. So then Bryony was Hugh Grant, I guess. So then Bryony said the line. And then, I don't fucking know. It might have been that film, Chris. I'm not sure. But it was like all of that, and I was like, oh my god, like, this, it only made me feel more anxious. Because it was almost too silly to where it made me feel more uncomfortable and more embarrassed, even though everyone else was doing it. Are you sure it was an improv class and not just an entertain adults for a couple of hours class? Well, see, once it got to that point, I was like, is this gonna be the whole time? Because there's still another like hour and 20 minutes. And I do not want to do this kind of stuff for another hour and 20 minutes. Rat Boy, thanks for the raid. Hope you had a good stream. Talking about, I went to an improv class taster, like, preview what an improv class is like. And for the first 40 minutes, we did 0 skits. We just had to basically play fucking Human Bop It, and I wanted to die. So after we did all of those weird things, then she's like, okay, we're gonna do word association. So we had to like partner up with somebody. So I partnered up with someone, and that was awkward because it was like we just spent a fucking 20 minutes in this circle, like doing zip zap boing blah blah blah. Red Boy, thanks for the 38 months. And so we had to do word association, and I was like, oh my god. Oh, I think while we were in that circle, did we do an actual, like, improv kind of thing? I don't think we did yet. So I think we had to sit down with one other person or stand with them. But I was like, she was like, you can sit or stand. I was like, do you want to sit? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, cool, because I also want to sit down after that. So it had to be word association. So it was like, say a word, and the other person says the word, which, yeah, I have done those things before. But I was like, ugh, like, I felt nervous about that because suddenly no words existed in my brain anymore at all. And I could not think of what a single word was. And I didn't want to do the thing that, like, kids do, where, they, like, just say the first thing that they see in the room. And I was like, I do not want to do that. And normally I'm, like, okay at word association, but I was like, I don't know this person. And as much as I want to be silly goofy, I'm, like, so fucking already, like, hyper-stimulated by all of the lights in the room being on, the windows, blinds, no curtains, the sun's beaming in my eyeballs. I just shredded my social credibility by playing Zip Zap Boing. Now I've got to sit down and think of words and, you know, not just, like, say the... Because I was like, okay... If someone says... This is so dumb. If someone says a word to me, the first word that comes to the mind is the fucking word they say to me, because I hear it in my head. So when I hear it, it's my internal monologue thinking it. So yeah, word association. If you say a word to me, my first associated word is the word you said because I fucking processed it. So I had to not do that, of course. And then, I was like, okay, well, don't say weird things because I feel so out of my element right now. I don't want to fucking say some crazy wackadoodle shit. Saying cheeseburger over and over again, basically. And so, like, this person, we sat down, and the words we ended up saying were like, I felt like I was too lateral with what they were saying. So then it was like, how do you move on from something? Because they said, like, music, and I said rock and roll, and they said something like radio waves or something, and I said Radiohead. And then they said something like human rights or something, and I said disestablishmentarianism or something. And then they said, at some point, I don't remember when it was, because we could say phrases and stuff too. So they said, with the voice and everything, which I respect them so much, they said, in the morning, I'm making waffles. And first of all, I was like, okay, that's fucking hilarious. Because it was something that could have been Shrek related. And I was like, oh my god, I want to Shrek relate back to them. So I was like, Funky Town. And at some point, before this, we had accidentally, like, they said part of the sentence of a song, so I finished the other half of the sentence of the song, so then we laughed and we were like, I guess we just did a duet. So then they did the donkey quote, so then I said, Funky Town, because which was not the first word I thought of. I think the first word I thought of was waffles, because that was the best word from the sentence they said. And then I think I thought, like, swamp, but I was like, no, that's too obvious. And I was having this internal stupid ass struggle. So then I just said Funky Town, and then I think he said, won't you take me to? And then I think I just said Funky Town again, and then we were laughing because we're like, what the fuck is going on? And then I think it was like over after that, and we're just like, and then we were supposed to take, after each thing, we were supposed to like chat to each other, like our other partner, and be like, what did you think of that? What did we struggle with? Blah, 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 blah. And I was like, that's fun, but it's really difficult for me to not just say something so extremely related to what you're saying. That, you know, I don't want to just say the same shit back. Following the stupid rules until it's funnier to break them. I think with me, I was like, because, you know, we did that, and then I think we took a break after that, and then I was talking to Bryony a bit, and then the tabletop guys were talking to us, asking us what games we play and stuff. And, I was saying, like, first of all, I'm, like, trying to get over being embarrassed about shit in my normal life, and trying to, like, learn how to unmask. So I was like, I'm struggling with that already as a human, because I don't know what my actual, like, being is. And so it's like, yeah, I'm trying really hard to not be embarrassed, but this is certainly pushing that there. And then, so we took that little break, and then we came back. And so then we started the yes and things. And that I struggled with, because I was like, okay, so we say yes and blah, 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 blah. But sometimes, like, the other person, they were not saying the exact words yes and. So then I was like, wait, am I supposed to say the exact words, or how do I do it, and blah, blah, blah. So then I was getting tripped up on that, because, of course, I love rules. And then, so we're saying that we were doing the yes and thing. We had to, like, sit down and pretend to have a picnic or something. And that was okay, but it was still kind of difficult to, like, do, and to, like, break out of, like, easy things about what you say about a picnic. So I was like, yeah, I like to get wacky with it, but we're saying things about a normal picnic. So we did yes and, we did yes or, and then we did no because, and then we were supposed to mix all of those together too, and things like that. That wasn't so bad. So we did all of those for a while, and then we had to do, we had to all stand in a circle again. And for this one, we had to, like, someone would, the first person was doing an action, and then you have to ask them, what are you doing? And then that person says an action that they are not doing, and then you do that action. And then when that person next to you asks you what action you're doing, you don't say the action you're doing, you come up with a new one, and then they do the action. Maybe the next time you meet someone RL, you'll feel less anxious because it'll pale in comparison to this entire class. I'm still struggling with not sticking to rules and getting off the rails a bit. It's like both, right? Remember that from drama school. It was difficult because it was like you're doing the thing, and so you're like, oh, I don't describe this to them. But then I'm also, like, trying to think of things that people can act out that aren't fucking weird as hell. And also because as soon as I'm having to do some silly, stupid shit and people are looking at me, and then I'm like, okay, now think of something silly for the next person to do. And then it's like my mind is completely fucking blank. I can't even think of things that someone can act out. And so My favorite one that someone suggested to someone else was they're like, the person's like, what are you doing? And they're like, I'm performing an MRI on a squirrel. And I was like, damn, that's good. Damn, I wish that was me. So I think the first, someone was like, I'm writing a novel. And then when it was like 6 people, and then when it got to me and I was doing whatever I was doing, which I didn't have any that were too silly. I just got kind of normal ones from the person next to me. So then I was like, okay, the guy's like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, I'm writing a new episode for a podcast. And I was like, oh, that's so boring. Boring. And so I was like, oh, I'm gonna think of one now, because then I'll have ideas ready just in case I thought of a few ideas. Then it went all the way around. And there's some really silly ones that the one guy that was like not embarrassed was doing, and he was great. And the person next to him gave him some like silly stuff, and he's like, oh, are you serious? Like the second time it happened, he was like, what do you have against me? And we were laughing. So we did that. That one was fun. And that felt a bit better because we were like actually like doing stuff, but it still didn't feel like what I was expecting, because you're doing an action, but you're only really acting it out and not like playing a character sort of thing. And then I think like one of the last things that we did was we had to do this thing where you get in a partner, and we did a bunch of things with different partners, like from the yes and all the blah 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 blah. So there was like a lot of different people that I like worked with or whatever. So then the next one was I think the last thing that we did was like it's everybody's birthday, and they're like, your partner is going to give you a gift, and then you take the gift and you say thank you, and then you describe what the gift is that they've given you. And so it would be like, oh, thank you so much for this really cool hat that's decorated with bells and whistles and has pom-poms on it. I love it so much. And then the person that gives you the gift is like, oh, I knew that you would love this gift because I know that you love hats, and also I know that you love whistles and you're starting a band or something. And so that was, and then they do that, and then you say thank you, and then they then it's their turn to receive a gift from you. And that one was okay, but I feel like that one was more difficult because I think we didn't understand like when each person is supposed to go, because we're still like bouncing off of each other, which was nice. But that one was a bit funny. And that might have not been, I don't think that was the last one we did. I think after that there was like one more where it was like you make a story by, you say we, and then the other person says our, and then you make a story, and then you say like begin, and then you start your thing. So I did that, and it was like, that one was really hard because it was like you have to like make up the story, and then you have to improv with each other. But if you're shy, then it was like difficult. And so we did some of them, and one of the ones I did was like, we are going on an adventure to Mordor or something. And so then it was funny because we were like, why are we going there? And they were like, are we throwing a ring in? And I was like, I don't think we brought a ring. And then I was like, what's that really big eye up there doing? I don't really like that. And they're like, maybe we should try to get it to not look at us. And I was like, how do we do that? And they're like, let's distract it. And so then we like pretended to move out of the vision of the eye. And then I was like, well, how are we gonna get into the mountain now? And they're like, let's dig. So then we pretended to dig. And I was like, I didn't bring a map. How do we know when we're there? And they were like, I don't know. And then we both at the same time were like, lava. And then I was like, oh. And then I think we were like, then you're supposed to say finished when you're done, or another, and then you move on to the next one. So we did. And then, as we'd done a story before that where we were talking about visiting our grandparents, and I like made a joke because everybody in the room during that one was so fucking loud I could barely hear the person next to me, that I was like, wow, it's so funny that grandma and grandpa live in the middle of a giant playground where everyone's screaming all the time. I don't know why they decided to do that. And then I said that the grandpa had like a live camera that fed the fucking view of the playground of adult. It was like an adult playground. And that grandpa, like, every time someone subscribed, it threw treats or something. And then so when we did the Mordor one, I was like, that's really weird. I just looked up at the eye and I can see a chat underneath it and it says subscribe to grandpa. So I, you know, pops my collar. Callbacks are the cornerstone of comedy. And this person that I got partnered with was the woman that was the husband and wife duo. And when I was doing things, I was making her laugh. So I was like, all right, there's my dopamine. So I was just, that was a little bit easier to be silly and goofy. Because she would laugh when I did stuff and then she would act with it too. But I got the like positive reinforcement of like, okay, that was funny. And then like the last one we did, it was like almost time to wrap up or whatever. And so we were like, we're so tired from sleeping in these big hammocks because we did back and forth words or whatever. And so we like were in the chairs and we were laying down and we were like pretending to wake up. And I was like, wow, I'm really tired. And she's like, yeah, I'm so tired too. And I was like, yeah, and it's really hot. And she was like, yeah, and it's so hot out here. It's just making me more tired. And I was like, yeah, I feel like the heat has something to do with that giant volcano over there. Because I was saying that we were still close to Mordor, and then she laughed about that. So, and then I think it was time to finish. But that was like, I think I felt, first of all, I felt more comfortable when I was either, like when me and Bryony partnered up, it was definitely easier because I wasn't nervous. And then, like, when I partnered up with that lady, I didn't feel as nervous because she was like, she was a bit more quiet and she was like laughing at the stuff that I said, so that was nice. Like everybody else, I was like, I am like, I had like my hands in my pockets, or like my hands were like, I was like, you know, hand on my hip, and I wasn't like relaxed. And I felt really bad, but I just was like, this is all so fucking overwhelming. By the time I left, I was like, I have a migraine. But then at the end, it was like the last 10 minutes. We had to say our name again, and then we had to say with what we were taking away with, from the class and stuff. And so the teacher lady was like at noon, and or at 12, and I was at like 6 again or something, or at 5. And so it went around and everybody was saying like, I really enjoyed it, it was a really nice time, it was great, and all of these things, and like it was fun to do silly stuff. And I was like I said I put in a good effort. I don't think it was my best, but I think under the circumstances of how overwhelmed I felt, that it was about as good as I could do. Yeah. And then when it got to me, and I was like, oh, I've been working on trying to be sillier and not be embarrassed about things, and like kind of get over that, and like not hyper think about everything that I'm doing or saying. And so like this did kind of help with that, because I did have to do it, you know what I mean? And so I said that, and then it was nice because there was still like 6 more people to go after me, and a couple more people, the thing that they said that they were taking away with, they were like, yeah, just like she said, like, I struggle with that, and it was nice to not have to feel embarrassed. And I was like, I've started a revolutionary. But it was also nice to hear that, because like in the viewpoint of being an autistic person and being like, okay, like, I spend a lot of time trying to fit in, whether I realize it or not. And now I'm having to do things that are obviously making you stand out and stuff like that. Then it was nice to hear from, like, potentially neurotypical people that they were, like, also worried about being embarrassed or self-conscious, because I know that's what, like, governs a lot of social interactions, except that I guess neurotypical people do not think about it. Like, they don't think about, they don't hyper-analyze, for the most part, every single thing that they're doing in conversation or in social situations. And so, for me doing the class, since I was so nervous and I felt anxious doing these things, and I still felt embarrassed even though it was supposed to be like that because we're all doing silly, goofy things. It was nice to hear, like, potentially neurotypical people also saying that they felt silly and they felt anxious and things like that. Zoe, thanks for the raid. I showed a lot of Blender at the start, and then chat was like, wait, Zoe's doing Blender too. And I was like, I know. We are both in deep. I'll show you if you're still here. But if you're leaving right away, that is also okay. I haven't sent you this yet because I've been very deep in the matrix that is Blender. So I've been distracted. Made a moth creature! I've gotta go look. I was telling everybody how the one that you sculpted was actually so amazing that it was like professional level, and I was so impressed. I've made my little low poly person Kirsty that I'm still working on. I want to do a few things and to like rig and stuff. But it's been really fun. Looks awesome. Thank you. I figured out shading that doesn't have to do with light sources. It has to do with the materials. So that's been really cute for cell shading. But my brain has slowly broken over time. And awesome. Thank you. But yeah, Zoe's been... Did you do some on stream then, I guess? I'll have to go and look. Since I've been doing this basically the last week that I haven't been streaming, it's like what I do when I wake up, what I do all day, what I do when I go to bed, and then I think about it, and then at all times. Reached the texture paint part and immediately forgot how to do it and ended the stream. Yeah. I was saying I tried texture painting with like the UV unwrapping. I tried it, and I was like, okay, this has broken everything. So instead, I've just used materials to, for the most part, paint what I'm doing. Because this is assigned materials to the faces of the object instead of texture painting it. So this is just a painted material. Hee hee! Hee hee! That could be brown or it could be yellow. No one knows. And I don't have to paint it or unwrap it. And it looks low poly. I was trying the edit mode low poly stuff to try to challenge myself and understand the program, but I just love and prefer the sculpt mode so much more. Well, there is like the I think like brains working in different ways, because the sculpting thing, I think that would make me lose my mind. It would be more difficult for me to grasp. But hyperfixations. The other night I woke up in the middle of the night and my nose was stuffy. And I got really angry because I hate when that happens anyways, of course. And so my nose was stuffy and I was like half asleep and I was like, ugh. And so in my brain, I imagined that what I needed to do was to take like the vertices of my nose and to like open them wider to let the air in. And then I stopped for a moment and I was like, what the fuck just happened? And I think I need to I was like, should I play around in Blender tomorrow, or should I remember I'm an organic human being that exists? I have a similar story, but it's very embarrassing. Listen, that was embarrassing. But that's how this is what happens, right? It's like when I hyper fixated on playing Wind Waker and Twilight Princess in high school, and then I was walking around my neighborhood at dusk, and someone had a fucking drinks cooler on their driveway, and it was under the light of their like porch light, and my brain was like, go over and open the chest right now, there might be rupees in there. And then I stopped dead in my tracks IRL, and I was like, what the fuck? I get sleep paralysis a lot, and I got it a few days ago, and I felt like a giant UV sphere was floating outside my vision trying to absorb me. I understand though, and I do not think it's embarrassing because I get it, because I opened the vertices of my nose to breathe better. So I understand. But I am sorry if it was scary, because also I would not want to be absorbed by a sphere. That does sound actually terrifying. Unless it was a nice sphere of like chocolate or something. It was horrifying. So no chocolate sphere. So I guess I would not... It depends. Because you can't breathe chocolate, so it does sound like death. Control Z so many times IRL. Oh my gosh, that too. When I've like been drawing a lot, I'll like go to get the pen from my tablet to like do something in real life, and I'm like, what the fuck? It's sleep paralysis about 4 times a year, but it's never been a floating blender orb before. Hopefully that's like the least bad one, but still, sleep paralysis. I get the I think it's a form of sleep paralysis where sometimes if I don't set an alarm, so now I always set an alarm, I get the like repeated awakening thing where it's a horrible nightmare of I wake up, I do a bunch of stuff like getting ready for my day and like going to do the thing that I need to do, and then I wake up again, but I'm still asleep, and I was asleep, and then I wake up in my sleep again, and I wake up over and over again, and I'm like trying to force my eyes open because I will get to the end of it and I'm like, I need to wake up, and I can't. And I cannot force my eyes open, and that is so, it's the worst. I feel like my bones are made of sludge. And I'm like, open your eyes, and I'm like trying to move, and I'm like sludge, and I hate it. So now I always set an alarm even if I'm just taking a nap, because I hate that. I hate it. Anyways, enjoy the rest of your evening. I'll send you progress photos. Like I said, all of you, if you haven't seen Zoe's art that she's been doing, she sent it to me, and I was like, it feels offensive to say because I think of how people could take it, but it was like, I saw it and I was like, this looks like professional level Blender, which I didn't want to imply that it's not, but it was like just so far advanced out of what I can envision even myself doing, and the proportions that Zoe did, that I was like, I think I sat there for a moment to just look at it and be like, this is crazy, because it was so good. Yeah, it has been. And then we're talking to each other, I'm like, oh my god, I don't know how to do this thing, and she's like, yeah, I'm trying to learn how to do this thing too, and the donuts and all of that, and giving advice is great. But yeah, that's been fun. It's been fun. Jade, hello. Thank you so much for the 32 months. Bjorn, thanks for gifting a sub to Zoe. And Angus, thanks for the 32 months. I was talking about, I did a improv taster class today, and it was like meant to be very social anxiety breaking, but it made me feel so overwhelmed and so much more socially anxious and so much more embarrassed of everything that I was doing, that I was like, I wanted to pretend to be a guy from Boston that likes cheese toasties. and I instead clapped when I locked eyes with people and had to make eye contact. Also, the big lights were on and the windows with all the sun shining were coming in, and I felt as if I were disassociating. So, yippee! I did the cat animation in Blender. I've got to learn how to do stuff in here too, like animating stuff. But it's been fun to just. I've made just so many like little guys, and I've been happy to do that. So, oh my gosh, we do need Zoe's raccoon. I forget her name. We need. That is such a good low poly. Files it away in my brain Rolodex. That would be really cute. Trashly, of course. Of course. I have been like so emotionally overwhelmed and sensory overwhelmed today. And I know I yapped for like, oh, it's been 3.5 hours. So I didn't know I yapped for that long. I knew I yapped for a long time, but I had not looked at the time at all. I was thinking that I would yap my usual hour and then play a game or something. But I was also like, okay, well, I've been on vacation for a week and I did things that are fun to talk about, and also the hell that was today. There's a theater nerd inside of me who wants to do improv and musicals, but the moment I try, I collapse and I failed drama GSE and never recovered. Zoe, what they had us do, I was like, okay, I feel like I would have been better prepared if we didn't have to do this, because I just start off by like walking around the room in not a circle. And then after that, we had to like look at stuff around the room, walking around not in a circle. And then after that, we had to deliberately make eye contact with each other and say hi. And then after that, if we made eye contact with people, we both had to jump at the same time and high five. And then after that, we all had to get in a circle and we had to play Zap Boing. And I was like, this is killing me. This is killing me. I wanted to play a character. I wanted to be a guy. Can't even make eye contact with my support worker. See, I've forced myself to learn how to do it, but in a way that exhausts me so much that now I'm trying to let myself not do it. And then when I was already overwhelmed and all the big lights were on and the sun was shining in so bright, the lights were so bright, I sometimes was outside of my body because I was like, I cannot function like this. And we didn't do a whole lot of actual improv stuff, and it was a nice time. Disclaimer, everybody there was really nice. The teacher was really nice, and I went with Bryony, and it was a really good, fun time. But I also was social anxiety-ingly in hell. You also make no eye contact or way too much. I'm still at the stage of making way too much. To the point where I almost can't function on listening to what someone is saying because I'm thinking about the amount of eye contact I'm making. Just stay inside in the dark making things in Blender. That's, I know, I was like, I need to go out and do things, but also I don't have the same like social need as some people do, to where I'm like, oh, like this weekend I'm gonna go out and do this and I'm gonna meet these people and I'm gonna do these things. I could literally probably like, and I mean I did, like the last week I basically did not super go anywhere or do anything, and I loved it so much. I sat here like from morning to night, sometimes to like 2 or 3 in the morning, making stuff in Blender, pausing sometimes and like doing like other things around the house, listening to like true crime shows, watching a bunch of documentaries, and learning stuff, and then starting the Legends of Adventurous Uprooted thing with Bitsy, and I was like, this is my element. I mentioned this in my session this week where I have an internal timer where it's like, okay, it's been 1 minute, make eye contact now. I don't have the timer, and I think I went from like, I always tell this story, but I was hanging out with Lewis once, and I sat with him in a cafe. This is before I got diagnosed. He's all the way up there, like Gilgamesh. I was sitting with Lewis at a table, and Lewis was telling me a story. And so, subconsciously, my brain goes, okay, To show someone you're interested in what they're saying, you need to make eye contact with them. And then also, my definition of eye contact is when you make eye contact with someone, you keep it there, even if you don't want to. And also, eye contact means staring directly at the other person's pupil, because that is the essence of the eye. And so I was talking to Lewis. He was telling me something important, and I was like, yes, I must communicate that I am listening, and this is important to me too. So I was staring directly into Lewis's eyes, at his pupil, and then Lewis kept looking away from me, and I was like, why can't Lewis make eye contact? Which Lewis would make eye contact and then look away sometimes, and I was like, is Lewis autistic? And then, whoa, wah, wee, wah, lo and behold, the call was coming from inside the house. The call was coming from inside the house. Making eye contact does not mean never looking away from them to the point of where the other person could potentially feel discomfort. It means that people just naturally will make eye contact, look away, do other things. Meanwhile, me. And then, so if I'm talking to someone now, well, before, I'd be like, okay, this is an important part. Time to lock in. Time to strap in. And then I'd be staring at them, concentrated on listening so hard that I don't actually hear what they're saying. And then I go, oh, fuck, I have no idea what this person's been saying. Which also happens all the time when someone introduces themselves to me. And they say, hi, my name is this. And I go, okay, they're saying their name. That is important. Remember it. And then immediately I'm like, fuck. I did not. I was thinking about remembering their name. And so I did not have enough RAM to also include storing the name in there. I didn't store it and it's gone. And so, a lot of times I just go, welp, I don't know their name and I'm never going to. And so then I just pretend that I heard it. I pretend. And same thing with listening. Oh yes, this person is saying something so important right now. To communicate that I agree with how important it is, because it is important to me too, because I like this person. I'm going to maintain extreme eye contact with them, to the point where they probably don't want to look in my direction. And then when they are done with that, then I am allowed to relax my eyes and maybe look elsewhere, but not for too long, because then it will seem I'm not paying attention. But I do not have the internal timer. I have to think, look away. What should I look at while I'm looking away? Look back. Should I look at their nose, or am I supposed to look at their eye again? No, if I look at their nose or their forehead, they'll think that they have something on their nose. I introduced myself with my name. They said theirs. I corrected them to my name, thinking they were mishearing me. That went on for 5 minutes. I love that for you, though. I love that. Script of remembering to appear polite by telling someone to have a nice day. It falls apart when I'm ordering pizza at 1 a.m. and the day is very much over, and then my brain short circuits because the script was wrong. Yeah. I get that, too. I think it was like when we were doing the improv class, I was like, if I actually like talk to the other person a little bit, then I felt more comfortable. But when it was like, I don't know this person at all, or I don't remember what their name was from them introducing it, now I cannot function. But it is very much the like script thing too. Except I was happy the other day because I went to a restaurant and the person was like, the waiter said they brought me the food, and they said something that was not enjoy your food. It was something else to where I was allowed to say you too, and so I was like, you too, because it was appropriate, and I also didn't get tricked by the enjoy your food. Yippee! Thinking about whale. I love that. Forbidden restaurant words. I don't even say, once I enter a restaurant, I enter the zone of deleting the words you too from my vocabulary, because ain't no way I'm gonna get caught out saying you too. Same thing with when I go to the airport or the restaurant. Battle music plays, but the battle music is me battling and eliminating the words you two from my vocabulary so that even if they say something appropriate for you two, I ain't doing it. No. I will not relax and let my guard down so that I can say it at the wrong time and then go, ugh! Why'd I do that? You ever go to Panera and have the super salad trap? No. Because I want the bread bowl is what I want. When the cashier at the store says something different off script, my brain takes a literal 5 seconds to register anything completely different. Yeah. Sounds like super salads. Oh. See, I disseminate the soup or salad words in my brain. So I do not get the super salad, luckily. I think there's a few times today where even though I can come up with like silly goofy things on the fly all the time, and I do, I just felt so out of my element. I was like, I think I just started masking again, and I was like, normal person things. Except when I was doing the improv with Bryony, and then suddenly our picnic had mice delivering meringue to us. And then when I was with strangers, I was like, picnic, yes, the blanket is here. Also, egg salad. Normal man, me. I'm Normalman. I'm Vincent Normalman. I bought a drink at an airport recently when the bartender wished me a happy flight. I locked eyes with him and said, thanks, you too. See, then you have to own it though, right? You own it. You have to just claim it. Alright. It's been 3.5 hours of yapping. I was like, wow, I'm so tired. And I have a migraine from the improv class. I took some ibuprofen before the stream, and I was like, ooh, maybe I'll just talk about my day, and then I'll be done. Maybe I won't play a game, or maybe I will. Here I am, yapping. And I've yapped. And I yapped. It's that Hey Ya Ya song, but he says, and I yapped instead. Alright, I'm looking for someone to raid. I'm just gonna do this. I think I got so, like, overwhelmed today that it then, like, looped around to where the negative became positive, and the positive was, the brain zoomies, where I then had to yap for 100 years. Yappin'. Yappin'. Also streaming. The Ricky Peacock. The Pedguin. Oh, Jamaki and Ped. We'll rate them because it's like a 2-for-1 special. Don't forget to redeem that, Can I do that in this chat? I don't even know if I can. I might have to type it in my own chat. Because I've got that new thing. I forgot. I was typing the Pedguin because I was thinking about the rat boy. Okay. Raid emote, whatever you want. Whatever you want. I gift you the gift of, I'm the 4th fairy from Sleeping Beauty. My color is purple, and I gift you the gift of free will. That's what I gift you. I survived. The migraine went away, luckily, during the stream. I think because I got to, yell at you for so long. Oh, thank you, Uncle Ninja. I'm glad. I think that's nice because, like I said, part of the nice thing about the improv today was when people that are seemingly neurotypical were like, wow, yeah, I agree with the autistic one. That's not what they said, but that's... I do the thing like this, homies. They're like, yeah, I agree, like that. It was really difficult to allow myself to feel embarrassed and to like do silly things. And I was like, wow, feels nice. for other people to relate. Yippee! Okay, Tilleron. I hope you shit yourself.